Hello, guys. I'm Shane Davis, 20-year comic book veteran here with a beautiful, lovely, sometimes she will make this guy a sandwich, Yanzi.
Hi.
And today is the day we're here to talk about crowdfunding or corporate comics. Should creators sink their best years into corporate comics or just get straight to crowdfunding? So here we go. So this is a bit of a topic that we deal with in my household from time to time because now I'm crowdfunding comics. As you can see, Inglorious Rex, look down below. The description is below. It is up in funding right now, a whopping $243,000, 556. So please go check it out. Support indie comics by comic book creators. And this is a conversation that happens in our household quite a bit. Did I make a mistake in my comic book career investing years? The best years are behind you. You know, I'm not getting younger. A kid told me the other day, he's like, "Hey, Gramps." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Guess what you're never going to do?" I'm like, "What is that?" He's like, "Get any younger?" I'm like, that stuck. So we're at a point, and the American comic book industry has a big stretch of history about not rewarding old creators. Okay, a lot of old creators end up with things like comic book charities trying to raise money for creators to pay their rent. The Hero Initiative is one of them. Comic companies just don't take care of anybody. Okay, the best years of your life creating comics for corporations to hire somebody younger, cheaper. And maybe if you're lucky, you walk away with some equity sheets up under your arm, like I have, and you maybe can get some payment if you don't have to run a lawyer up DC's butt to get payment. So in this case here, we got Jimmy Palmiotti. He wrote an interesting tweet Yanzi brought to my attention that actually is this subject.
So Jimmy Palmiotti here is saying, if 3 out of every 100 people following me on Twitter back to my Kickstarters, I would never have to work on another corporate comic character for the rest of my life and only work on my own creations. That is pretty sad, actually, if you think about it, because Jimmy Palmiotti and his wife, Amanda Connor, they really, boosted the image of characters like Harley Quinn and all that when they did their runs on it. And now what do they have to show for it? Nothing, because guess what? They don't have any equity in Harley Quinn. They gave some of their best works to DC and get nothing to show for it, except maybe some, couple of fractions of a cent for each issue. So I guess maybe.
I had a similar thought run across my brain as a kid. I was mowing yards, 12-year-old. I was mowing yards for comic book money. And I thought to myself, if every person on this planet gave me 1 penny, I would not have to mow yards for comic book money ever again. This is kind of like one of those things. There's a Southern saying, wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which fills up first. I agree with Jimmy. If 3 out of every 100 people that follow you on Twitter. Now, the trick is, how do you convert your following into backers of your crowdfunding? Well, first, you probably need to emphasize your crowdfunding more than working in corporate comics. You probably need to advertise your crowdfunders more. You need to talk about them more. And you probably need to make sure your crowdfunded projects actually have a little bit of zing. They should actually look like better books than what you do for the main two. People are going to say, well, that's not fair. You need to put your back into Spider-Man. Well, Spider-Man ain't going to put his back into me. He's not going to, pick me up when I need medical care or, when there's like a travesty that I need money or help. I mean, Spider-Man is a great fictional character, a superhero that helps people, but he's not going to help a comic book creator. Looking back, and I'm going to pick on myself here, I probably sunk too many years into working in corporate comics, working with lazy writers that really just, they need to con somebody into drawing their books for them. And that's the thing. I mean, I need to do for myself. Todd McFarlane, a creator I often think of, he had this idea when I think it was Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee were going back to Marvel to do Heroes Reborn. He was like, why would you ever do that? That's against everything we did at Image. And he had the idea, I'm not going to give people any option. If you're buying Todd McFarlane, you're buying me doing Spawn. You're buying Spawn. Like, there is no option to buy Todd McFarlane Spider-Man again. That stuff's there. And his success and Spawn or just doing his own book was that. Now, historically, maybe Spawn sold really high and it sold really low, depending on what time in comics it is. But the reality is that's the only way you were going to get anything at Todd McFarlane's, period. He made it that way. And this is the thing. Are you a product of your environment, or is your environment a product of you? And this is something probably I would say more so now comic creators need to ask themselves, because technology is different. Okay. This isn't like corporations owning the comic book industry and printing and diamond distribution. I mean, you can basically ship your comics out of your house yourself with Gemini mailers, run a crowdfund somewhere. I mean, now, are you going to sell less copies? And this is something we get attacked with all the time is, well, you're not moving as many copies of Inglorious Rex as you are like when you worked on this, or I know your numbers on this or whatever. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. I'm not, but I'm living financially a lot better. I can take care of myself better. I can take care of my family better. And that makes a big, big difference in just me having a future in general. Should I have worked in corporate comics to help establish that? I kind of don't think so. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, but you only do so well in crowdfunding because you have a name in comics already. Sure, that's part of it. But believe it or not, a lot of my backers and stuff actually don't come from the comic book audience. They actually come from my YouTube, which you're watching right now. Please hit like, subscribe, ring that bell for notification, please. And the work we put in on this YouTube channel and getting out there and getting known. I get messages from people every day. They're like, I just discovered your channel. I hope you make a comic book company. I'm like, well, actually, I do. It's funny you say that. Here's my comic book. Please go back it. This is the type of thing that I'm not so sure every comic book creator appreciates or understands, that the internet isn't necessarily everybody going into the comic book shop.
If you look at it that way, though, it seems like a lot of people come into all these crowdfunding also through Corpo Comics. Well, let's look at this person who commented to Jimmy over here saying, but I really enjoy your work on corporate comic characters. So many great creators are moving away from mainstream comics. I wonder why. I'm happy for you all. Go tell your stories and make some money. But it makes me sad to lose your talents on the adventures we were already on together. So Jimmy replies, did them for 30 years. Not much to show for it. Still paying my own medical coverage. No loyalty to me for all the hard work. Royalties for doing over 1,000 books don't cover my medical coverage for 2 months each year. What's in it for me to continue that path? Very good statement, Jimmy. And here is the tragedy of it. Ondori Comics here replies, if we had the money, we'll throw at you to do more creator-owned. Honest. Ondori, here's the funny thing. You probably have followed Jimmy on a lot of his corporate comics. So why don't you have money to put on his indie comics? Question mark.
Sometimes it's the character, and that's the thing. And I think maybe creators need to distance themselves from the characters. Sometimes people think, well, I work on Batman. I'm the biggest writer in comics. I make all these Batman sales. No, Batman sells Batman. When I worked at DC Comics, I worked with Judd Winnick on Batman Under the Hood. Later on, Judd Winnick would be moved off, and say Grant Morrison, RIP Batman would come around. They sold the same. Talking to the editor at DC Comics, there was no big movement because Batman sold Batman, whether it was Judd Winnick, whether it was Grant Morrison, at the time one of the hottest writers in comics. Didn't really make a difference. Batman sold Batman. So when you see a creator come off of Batman and go do crowdfunding, you would think he would do a lot better than me, who was not a Batman creator or a Batman writer of multiple reboots, of multiple big events. But no, Inglorious Rex actually surpassed this. So why did that happen? Because creators really have to sell themselves. Their personalities have to have a genuine interaction with their fans, which I often do on my live streams. Hope you guys come join me. And, we try to have a fun time and sell some comics. And that's the thing, is interactions with fans. And, again, another case, Sean Gordon Murphy on Batman White Knight should have sold a lot more than 266, but yeah, I'm like coming up under him on Inglorious Rex. So what is that about? I didn't come off a big Batman series too, where I got to write and draw and had the big corporation giving me a shot in the arm. I don't have action figures sitting in Walmart right now, like my Batman stuff. This doesn't make a lot of sense. So why doesn't it just, so should somebody, I do think somebody trying to do comics should have competent comics. I do think it helps if you work for Marvel and DC, sure, but I don't think it coming off of Batman is going to make you $500,000 on a crowdfunded comic. Obviously, it's going to make you some money, sure, but Batman fans like Batman. Now, your fans, hopefully, if you interact with your fans and you build your environment in crowdfunding, you will, have big backing. I think it's a different game, though. Obviously, and I'm coming from both. I mean, Inglorious Rex is my second crowdfunder, and it is completely a lot more work, guys, than just being paid to draw something at Marvel and DC Comics, and all you gotta do is get the deadline and turn it in. I mean, we're having to edit our books, we're having to chase people down on stuff. Not really chase, everybody's pretty good. But printers, having to chase printers down, trading cards, things like that, ship the book out ourselves, do the fulfillment. And that's not accounting for campaigning, which can be 2 months, if not longer, and keeping a YouTube presence. And which I like interacting with my fans. It's better than going to conventions, honestly. But this is, again, I think a subject that doesn't get talked about enough. And it's something that, again, we saw Jimmy kind of come across, but it's a common conversation in our household is, should I have been doing this years earlier? When I first got into comics, it was a whole different industry. Like the internet wasn't there. I mean, I'm not trying to make me sound old, but it wasn't like I could go post my artwork to Instagram or something like that. You literally your comics weren't, nobody would see them unless you were printed. That is not the case today. You can actually, you can, my artwork's on the internet, but I can also sell you a physical copy on the internet. And this is a whole different market. And I think in the future, a lot of creators, especially younger creators, younger than me, younger than Jimmy, are probably going to look back and say, how much do I want to invest in Marvel and DC? Do I just want to work at Marvel and DC for maybe a year, 2 years, get that big book, and then say I got the street cred, run out and start investing in my own environment rather than being a product of my environment?
In Jimmy's case, he probably feels that he should have put a lot more time into his own work because he feels that 30 years of it and has nothing to show for it. So maybe I would say put in maybe at most 5 years, I would say, with Corpo Comics, get your name out there, and then start working on your own characters.
Right. And this is something also I want to end on. The companies actually try to build social media requirements that threaten you to fire you if you ever veer off what is the path of them. So a lot of that is also kind of engineered in to keep a leash on you and make you fearful of building your own platform. And I advise everybody, go against that. Build your own platform, get your YouTube going, get your Twitter going, make sure your presence is known out there, and really advertise you, yourself, your brand. Get it out there, and make sure you build a competent product, because people will not come back if they didn't like the first product they got. And on that note, please go check out Inglorious Rex. Let's get this thing up to $245,000. The t-shirts, hats, and beanies are coming down this month. So if you guys want, here they are. Go check them out and get you some 9 Lives gear, if you will. And we will catch you guys again with another video. Please hit like, subscribe, ring that bell for notification, cause you know what? Fuck Ron Mars.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call a pastor, doctor. I got a 6th sense for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the game. Can't control me. I got